Okay guys, I was in the sewers. Don't ask me why. This path leads me to somewhere. And what's that? I was seeing a shoe. There's a person right there. And that's why I started recording. Hey! Hey! Are you alive? Hey, who are you, man? What are you doing it?
I got it, man. I got it.
What do you mean?
The whole John Pork cinematic universe is becoming massive. I finally got the answers. I finally got it.
And what are you talking about?
Come check this out. Hey guys, so in my last video about this same topic, I basically gave you all the origins and the basics of the JCU, John Pork Cinematic Universe. I went over the lore, basically gave you all the summary, but was that really enough? So here's the John Pork lore, the whole story. Again, so far of course. To explain this, I might need to go back to the beginning. So before all of this happened, 500 BJP. Before John Pork. Tim and Cheese, also known as the deadliest and the scariest person to walk on Earth then, was equipped with a blade of death that could wipe off civilizations with just one hit. It is also believed that during this time, the history was actually changed, and instead of Tim Cheese being responsible for so many deaths, the plague was instead. Now people had enough of him. They were scared that a person, an individual, could handle so much power. This brought fear in them. So they all decided to team up. They had enough of Tim and Cheese and they decided to put him and contain him. But Simon Claw, through a portal, finds Tim and Cheese and escapes him. Of course he does. Now you all are probably wondering, why am I even telling you about this? Why am I even bothering to tell you about this? But the thing is, this is crucial to the Tim Cheese lore, because as it turns out, Tim and Cheese is a long lost ancestor of Tim Cheese himself. But what happens next is that Genghis Ham, who's the ancestor of John Pork, now he appears near the portal Simon opened for Tim Cheese, and he sees through that portal is his whole army being defeated. He sees both Tim and Simon wipe out his entire army. No survivors, including him. So they both switch the portals and they try to find the actual John Pork timeline, the prime John Pork timeline. Yeah, that's basically the whole history of it. I think that you got a hang of it. So now back to the current times. So Agent 5.5, who's in a private island, calls up Pengu the Penguin for an epic duo team up. But Agent 5.5 then realizes that the birds on that private hidden island where he's actually hiding, the birds don't look that real, and as it turns out, those birds are actually spy drones made by the mastermind himself, Tim Cheese, who's spying on Agent 5.5. On the call, Agent 5.5 calls up Pengu the Penguin and they decide to launch Operation Cheese. They call up all the brainrot, Decravious Pork, Marvin Beak, and of course Freak Bob, who he's still alive. These guys will be traveling underwater by a submarine because of the spy drones that Tim Cheese has made, I guess. So as they're calling, the call gets hijacked by Tim Cheese and he reveals that he was the one to actually kidnap Agent 5.5, and now he has also kidnapped Pengu's wife, Polly the Penguin, and they have 24 hours left. But they have a trick up their sleeve. You see, Jim Pork was actually tracking down Simon and Tim, and now Marvin Beak, Bob Bacon, and Pengu the Penguin, they all know where Tim and Simon are hiding. Now Marvin, thinking Simon was unalived by Pengu, loses his guard when he comes face to face with Tim himself. Now what happens next is that when he loses his guard, behind him there's Simon, and then he shoots him in the back. In this extremely tough situation, while Marvin is bleeding out by the gunshot wound, Simon calls up Bob Bacon and tells him that he has to bring Pengu the Penguin and Polly to the secret hideout, the Lion's Den. Now Bob, having no choice of course, brings Pengu and Polly to the Lion's Den. As they're walking in the Lion's Den, there's a moment where hell is let loose and Polly the Penguin gets shot. Now this actually gives Bob time to help Marvin escape the prison cell. So as the trio is running out of the den and they get on the boat halfway, Bob and Marvin realize that Pengu, I just wanted to use this picture, was actually missing. Like, where is he? So as it turns out, he went back for Polly, of course. I mean, like, he couldn't just leave her behind. So now Pengu is captive and a hostage by Tim Cheese. While this whole chicanery is going on, Justin Cheddar releases another video and he announces that he has been kidnapped. Now you're probably wondering by who. Justin Cheddar. Of course it's Justin Cheddar. Of course, why not? How do you do it? So one day Jim is watching his favorite show Invincible. So Jim is watching his favorite show Invincible and gets a call from Justin asking him to get ready for the next plan to take down Tim. So while he's there, Justin's henchmen jump on Jim. Jim fights back, and then there's just too many. Then he gets locked up in an ultra secret hideout of Justin Cheddar. But why did Justin do all this? You see, he never actually betrayed Tim in the first place. He got in Marvin's sight so he could get inside the game and just operate from the inside and know all this information about the enemies, if you know what I mean. So the whole family are basically rats at this point. Now Biggie Cheese, the classic, as it turns out, is the older brother of both Tim and Justin Cheddar. You know Biggie Cheese, the guy that goes Mr. Bombastic. And yes, this will be important later on, I think. Please be. Now Jim released all this information and basically told everybody that he can take care of himself. Like, there's no need for a rescue operation. I mean, it makes sense. The guy was like a freaking ninja. I might need to sit down for this one. This is time for another John Pork twist lore. So it turns out John Pork wasn't really rich because of his fame, and he was actually setting up some scam call centers to make money, and they were also used by Bob Bacon as a secret hideout. Now Tim and Simon find the secret area and they clear out anybody and everybody there until they find Bob Bacon, because they're gonna be keeping him alive for later. I also kind of forgot to add this picture right here where Simon is not dead but he is kind of dead. I'll just put it right here. But little did they know, Marvin is actually back in Lion's Den looking for Pengu. And grabbing Pengu, still in shock because of Polly's death, of course. They're on their way for Bob Bacon. You guys got all that? But as it turns out, the call centers weren't really call centers. They were actually search teams designed to actually save and locate Pengu the Penguin's location. Bob the Bacon was 10 steps ahead. So Tim and Simon are currently torturing Bob Bacon in order to get the whereabouts of Agent 5.5, which are unknown, by the way. Agent 5, I don't know why, but Agent 5.5 keeps disappearing. Like, this man. Okay, so Agent 5.5 is in a jungle somewhere hidden in the leaves, and he's trying to search for this reboot van from Fortnite to resurrect John Pork himself. Of course, getting to the reboot van isn't gonna be a walk in the park, and it's guarded by the powerful mastermind, the Guardian, who controls everything. Serve me or be erased, he says. Now, working under the architect, or basically making him master, Agent 5.5 is actually becoming closer and closer to solving this case. The entire case. Oh. Wait, let me check if I'm missing anything. I'm pretty sure I got all of it. But just to be sure, if they got any updates or something.
We walked around for 20 minutes, but we found nothing. But then we heard someone driving on the driveway.
So I looked it up. There's 2 more videos. In these videos, basically what happened is that Bob Bacon is dead. Yup, he's dead. Yeah, it's over. So what happens next is that both Jim and Marvin decide to bomb Simon Claw's house. And there's his girlfriend there as well. And they still do it anyway. So this is the entire John Pork lore so far. Bro, I swear, how long is this gonna take, dude? I don't want to make another part.
Hey guys, I'm Max Cameraman. Never go in the sewers and record your John Pork lore, because this might happen to you. And now I'm getting a band-aid.